of advice to improve your manifesting abilities, it would be this. Stop reacting to your 3D circumstances because they do not matter. And better yet, they don't even fucking exist. 3D world is over. It's dead and gone from your old habits of thinking, your own assumptions, and your old belief system. Every time you energetically react to something, you are keeping it alive in your reality. Whether it's a specific person that's not treating the right way, or it's money issues, or your body looking a certain way that you don't like, every time you react to it, you are keeping it alive. That is how the quantum field works. Instead of reacting to something, you start laughing at it. I had my client start doing this. She is using the Master Manifestor workshop at the very top of my page, and she manifests. In 4 months of her developing this habit.
Okay. So, hello. Queen here. Hope everyone is doing well. As promised, went on ahead and made a video over here. So, when it comes to dimensions, I feel as though if this video finds you, you might be in a season of life where like you just kind of look around and like you're kind of just thinking, this cannot be all that there is to life. Like me going to work, me earning a living, me raising children, having children, all of those things. It just can't, it has to be more to life, right? This can't just be the only reason why we are on earth. And you might be in a place where you want to talk to your friends about, I don't know, like maybe conspiracy theories, or maybe about energetic shifts, or, maybe about spirituality. And, your friends are still talking about the guy that they like, or, gossiping about someone. And, I'm making this video to let you know that you're not crazy. You are essentially just vibrating out of the matrix, and you are vibrating outside of the 3D realm that has been created for us. And so in this video, I'm going to explain to you what the 3D, 4D, and 5D really are. And kind of from a feminine perspective, because obviously as women, our experience is different than what a man's would be, and essentially what each level will feel like, and also the inner dialogue. So like what you will think, what your beliefs will probably be, and then essentially how to know if you are shifting dimensions, right? So what are dimensions? Dimensions are essentially, they're not places, but they're states of consciousness, right? And everyone reaches, most people never expand their state of consciousness. Most people are going to be here in 3D, right? Most people are going to wake up every day. They're going to work a job where they exchange their time for money and use that to pay bills and just use that to keep up with all of the physical things in life. They're never going to question anything. They're going to die not knowing what their purpose is, and they're going to die. That will be it. And essentially, if you are a person that wants to tap into your consciousness, or you feel as though you've tapped into your consciousness, you will start to question the lens that you're viewing reality through. So like you will just start asking yourself, like, how did certain things become created? Where did certain concepts come from? And essentially it's like a soul operating system, essentially. And the higher you go in dimension, the more spiritually aligned, intuitive, and magnetic you become. And also, you're going to outgrow the things that once felt normal to you, right? So I want to start with 3D because this is where most people live. So 3D is essentially the Matrix mindset, right? A lot of people have seen the movie The Matrix. And the 3D is pretty much everything physical that has been created. So hard work pays off. The whole thing of, you're supposed to, when you're 18, you go to college, you find someone, you get married, you have, you get a house, you have children, and then that is the code to life. That is the code to the Matrix. That is the code for 3D living, where essentially the 3D is just rooted in survival. Survival, ego, fear, in duality. Well, not duality, but more so like binary thinking, right? You will believe that you are separate from everyone and everything. So this is why in the 3D realm, there's always a lot of separatism. So we're separated by race, we're separated by religion, we're separated by socioeconomic status, we're separated by political viewpoints, we're separated by geographic location. The list goes on and on and on and on. And so your value essentially comes from your job, your looks, your relationship status, right? And so whenever you are in a whatever dimension you are in, there are symptoms and feelings that come along with being in each realm. So when you are in the 3D realm, you tend to be in a constant state of anxiety or fear. So when you have those thoughts like, I'm 35 and, I'm not where I thought I was supposed to be, you are still living in 3D. That is a 3D mentality. That is a 3D mindset, because you are basing your progress off of what the 3D blueprint is, right? Because I'm 35 and I'm not married yet, or I'm not a homeowner yet, what's wrong with me? Why isn't life going my way? That's the 3D mentality. And so what happens is you become anxious, you become fearful. Well, what if I die alone? What if I never find someone? What if I never have children? You start freaking out about those things because you're trying to fit into the 3D blueprint. Also, you will also have a lot of comparison. That all comes from comparison. So all of your friends are married and you're the one that's not married. And now you're looking at yourself like you're crazy. Also, you chasing external validation, you wanting attention from men, you wanting a certain type of car because you know that this type of car will attract you more attention, or you wanting a certain place so that way you can brag to all your friends when they come over. So feeling stuck, feeling robotic, feeling disconnected, essentially the rat race, right? And so I've already kind of given examples of what your inner dialogue sounds like, but when you're constantly feeling like you need to work harder to achieve something, if you're not married, if you don't have a man, you're failing, feeling tired all the time, why is life so difficult for me? Why is life so hard for me? People are out to get me. I can't trust anyone, right? And then signs that you are still stuck in the 3D is essentially kind of what I just said, right? You're addicted to validation. So you always are on social media, always wanting to post on social media, hoping that you can get attention, hoping you can get male approval, doing everything at work, hoping that you can get acknowledgement, hoping that people will appreciate you at work, constantly people pleasing. You will feel like it's hard to trust anyone or surrender any control. And then you only believe what you can see or prove. So you don't believe anything unless you have physical proof of that thing. So that is everything in the 3D. And like I said before, this is where most people live. Let's watch another video.
Universe based on 11 dimensions. We know that based on theoretical physicists like Michio Kaku and many other well-respected physicists, they theorized based on the mathematics that without 11 dimensions, this universe would collapse.
What is a dimension?
Well, dimension is a realm that exists at a different frequency. So right now we're in the third dimension. We only can control the first and the second. The first dimension is a line. The second dimension is connected lines. And because we're in the third dimension, we're like the God over the second and the first. We can control and manipulate those dimensions from the outside. The fourth dimension is a tesseract, a fourth dimensional hypercube. From the fourth dimension and all the way up, things change completely. So we're in the third. Somebody in the fourth dimension, an entity, can see into everything. They can see through this ceiling and watch us sitting here right now. They can see the past, present, and future all at the same time. In other words, when I first walked in the building and you greeted me, they would see that. In another room, they would see us taking photos. And in this room, they would see us doing this interview, but they would see all three things happening at the same time. And then above that, you have the fifth, sixth, seventh. Now, these dimensions are compactified. They're stacked so tight on top of each other. So if there are beings in higher dimensions, they can theoretically walk from their universe or their dimension directly into ours. This could be some of the reason for paranormal activity and things like that. Entities or beings having a peek into our world, into our dimension.
So essentially, what he is saying is that, like I said, this 3D that we live in, this is all physical, right? I know he really is. He really is. But honestly, he really does have like a lot of knowledge. He does. I actually use Billy's, I use his colloidal silver, and I also use his gold. I will put that in my smoothies. I'll put that in my smoothies. But essentially, so our creation before all of this was like actually in a higher dimension. Okay. Everything started off in a much higher dimension than what we are in now. And then what happens is there are things that happen where the dimensions get split. And so what he's pretty much saying is that, so like, this is what they say about like aliens or whatever, right? Really, it's the belief that aliens are in a higher dimension, right? They are probably like 9, 10, 11. They're probably much, much, much further out. Whereas we're here on 3D because at one point we were all together and then things happened and we ended up splitting off. There are ways, like, so people that are like clairvoyant, people that have like spiritual gifts, they have been able to tap into the realms of higher dimensions. And the reason why is because they have deconditioned themselves. They have unbrainwashed themselves from what we've been conditioned here to be in the 3D realm. So when he's saying things like, oh, someone that lives in the 4D realm, they would be able to see the past, present, and the future. All he's saying is that they pretty much have clairvoyance. They trust their intuition. They are able to go along with their spirit to know what is going on, what is going to happen, not to have any worry or have any issues. So this is why in the 3D world, like, you know, like for you, you know, you're saying that you have a fear that you're not being productive enough at your job and they could get rid of you. That's anxiety. That's the anxiety that you have from 3D, because essentially you're thinking, well, if I don't have my job anymore, how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay for my car note? Does you being productive at work, is that going to protect you from keeping your job? Of course not. We're seeing people always thought that having a federal government job was one of the most protected jobs. Anyone that worked federal or government, they would always brag about how their job is protected. And then look at what is happening. They're realizing their job is not protected. So you have to realize that in 3D thinking, this is why they say, if you work hard, you'll be successful, because that's binary thinking. 3D thinking wants you to think 1 + 1 = 2. Because what life really is that 1 + 1 is never going to equal 2. But in 3D thinking, when they brainwash you to believe that 1 + 1 = 2, what they're doing is they're putting you in a state of fear, because they're not giving you the keys to life to say, well, 1 + 1 may not equal 2. So you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to dig deep. You're going to have to tap into your spirit to figure out what it is that you're going to do when 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. So this is why there's a lot of binary thinking in our 3D world. So hold on. I want to make sure. Oh, here's something else about 3D.
Anytime you're actually in the present is when you close your eyes, you envision something. You know, never got to say imagination is God. Yes. Every time you're looking outside of your, outside in the physical world, you're looking at the dead world, the past. Old thoughts and old feelings created what you're seeing right now in the dead world, right? So you can't really even get mad at anything that comes your way in your day-to-day because you manifested it a long time ago. So what you should be saying to yourself, you can't even really get triggered by this because old thoughts created it. You know how they be like, stop tripping over the past? Everything that is in your presence right now in the physical, stop tripping over the past. You got to keep telling yourself, stop tripping over the past. You created this with old thoughts. This is the world of effect. This is an effect from an old thought. But if I stop talking right now and I close my eyes and I envision myself in Paris, in the present moment, I am in Paris. Start thinking like that. In the present moment, you are wherever you're thinking about, whatever you're thinking about. The problem is, y'all take what you're seeing, the information that the 3D gives you, think about that all day, and guess what you just signed up for? Another dose of the same 3D over and over and over again. And now you're 50 years old and miserable because you had the same day for 50 years.
So this is why it's really important that you are mindful of what it is that you're taking in, the people that it is that you are hanging around, what you are watching, what you are viewing, what is on your social media, because what keeps most people stuck in 3D is usually anxiety or depression. You have anxiety about something that has not happened, or you have depression because of something that has happened in the past. I really do recommend you all to read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. It's a really, really good book. And this is where the practice of being present comes from, because you don't have any control. You can't change anything in the past, and you don't have any control over your future. Like, I remember when all of those plane crashes were happening and everyone was freaking out. I took a 9-hour trip. I took a 9-hour trip one way and a 9-hour flight back. 9-hour flight one way, 9-hour flight back when all of that was happening. Me not getting on a plane is not going to reduce my chances of getting in a car accident. Me not getting on a plane is not going to prevent anything else happening to me. All it's going to do is just prevent that I'm not going to get in a plane crash. That's it. That's the only thing that it's going to prevent. So it is a waste to stop yourself from doing one thing out of fear, when you not doing that one thing or avoiding that one thing is not going to protect you. It's not going to protect you from anything else that could happen to you. So you might as well just do the thing. Right now, I'm focused on trying to get myself outside of survival mode because it's creating a blockage holding me back from moving forward. Everything is going to be fine. You just have to be patient. And the biggest thing is just redirecting your thoughts, right? As soon as you get scared about your job situation, as soon as you get nervous about what could potentially happen when it comes to your money, with your stability, you have to redirect your thoughts to a more securing thought. I have a job today. I am safe. I have job security. Everything is going to work out for me. You have to redirect your thoughts, because at the end of the day, even if that were to happen, you would be able to figure it out. You have to trust yourself to know if something doesn't work out, I will be able to figure it out. This must be a sign for me to purchase the book. You're the third content creator I've watched that's mentioned it. Yeah, definitely get it. It's a really good book. Very, very helpful. And it definitely is a book for you to go back to in a season of clarity. It's a really good book to go back to and read again, because we have so many distractions in our world, right? It's very, very hard to stay still. It's very, very hard to just be in a room and be silent. Like, I want you to try this today. I literally want you to be in a room by yourself for 5 minutes, no phone, no music, no nothing. Like literally nothing. I just want you to be there for 5 minutes and see how it is that you respond. You know what I mean? See how your energy feels when you are sitting with yourself. Hey, Queen and Ladies, The Biology of Belief by Bruce H. Lipton talks about the physiology of our thoughts and beliefs, and it's fascinating. Highly recommended. I definitely will check it out. A cult classic that also talks about it is Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich is like a very cult classic, but that book also does the exact same thing. It essentially talks, it's a manifestation book. It is. Think and Grow Rich is a manifestation book. And so essentially you reframing your thoughts to bring whatever it is that you want to do into fruition. And then they also have like the 369 theory. So 369 was, those are powerful numbers. And Nikola Tesla was the first one to realize the power behind 369 because those are divisible numbers. You can keep dividing them to be able to start with 3. You get the same root every time you divide them to end up with 3. And so there's like a manifestation practice that essentially, like at one time you'll do the manifestation 3 times, at another time you'll do the manifestation 6 times, and then another time you'll do the manifestation 9 times essentially. Let's get into 4D now.
The universe based on 11.
Sorry, I'm deleting everything that I don't have up. So now let's get into 4D. So I like to call the 4D stage the Great Awakening phase. Usually I feel as though the 4D phase is when anything happens on a mass and global scale. And so I do believe that the pandemic in 2020, that really did put people in a predicament to have them ascend up a higher dimension if you were really paying attention. Because the thing about it is that there were two types of people during the pandemic in 2020. There were the people that wore masks, they wore gloves, they didn't leave their house, they wiped every single thing down, they wouldn't have any contact with anybody. I mean, they just wouldn't do anything. And then you had the other people that, I mean, they followed the guidelines just so that way they wouldn't get arrested or anything else like that. But essentially, they lived their life normal. You know what I mean? As normal as they could at the time. They didn't have any fear. They didn't have any issue like that. And the thing about it is that the reason why it's really important for you to get your thinking in check is because your thinking will manifest. Exactly. There were people that just said, fuck it, and just didn't wear a mask. And then of course there were people that's like, obviously I'm not going to deal with any of this. But for the most part, most people were split between extreme polar opposites, I feel like. And so the thing about it is that you must master your mindset because there is always something that's going to happen on a global scale that will affect everyone. And when you are living in the 3D world and you are anxious and you are depressed and you have a lot of negative thoughts, what's going to happen is when these tests start happening, like how the pandemic did, your spirit will be too weak and you will not be able to make it past whatever the test is. So a lot of those people, which believe it or not, it was mostly men. The men have a much higher mortality rate from COVID than women do. Majority of the people that have died from COVID have been men. So that should already be telling enough to you because they live in a lower level. They created 3D. Men created the 3D dimension, essentially, that we live in right now. And in order to get past something like that, you had to have ascended. Because what happens is that your negative thinking will manifest physically, and then your immunity will get lower. So you won't be able to fight off these things that happen. And what happens is that when your anxiety gets high in these very trying times, we see that the tariffs are going up. We see, we're pretty much headed into a recession, right? And I see it on TikTok in the comments. There are people that are freaking out. They don't know what they're going to do. They're trying to like come up with all these survival tactics and things like that. And then you got other people that are like, listen, I'm chilling. I'm chilling. As far as I'm concerned, everything is going to be fine. I'm going to figure it out. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. And that's what your mindset has to be, because there's only so much preparation that you can do. There's only so much preparation that you can do. All you need to know is that, okay, something is going to happen and I'm strong enough to get through it. That's it. That's all. That's it. So I want to talk about 4D. So pretty much your awakening. So 4D is really a bridge. It is a bridge between the matrix and the divine self. And in 4D, you have a lot of emotional turbulence. And the reason being is because you start questioning things. You start questioning, you want to dig deeper into history. You want to know why why do we have all these societal creations? You start questioning marriage. You start questioning having children. You start questioning a 9 to 5. You start getting more curious about all of this stuff. And yes, you realize that none of it's real. Once you dig deeper, you realize that life is a game. Life is a stage. This is all fake. Someone just woke up one day and just created this. None of this is real, which is why you really shouldn't care. You really, really shouldn't care. So the symptoms and feelings that you have, essentially kind of like an existential crisis. You will have a hard time having conversations with people. You will have a hard time holding on to certain friendships because they want to talk about things that you don't care about anymore. You start to feel isolated. You start to feel spiritually sensitive or maybe too much for people. And you start to essentially crave a need for purpose, right? You essentially start to ask yourself, why am I here? What is my why, right? What brought me here? There is a book. There's another book. Hold on. I'm typing it in because I want to make sure I'm giving you all the right name of the book. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Man's Search for Meaning. That is a very, very good book. In short, I'll just give you a quick synopsis. Viktor Frankl was a part of the Holocaust, and essentially the book was about his experiences in the Holocaust and the importance of you having a why and you having a purpose in your life. And what he found was that the people that did not survive the Holocaust, they seemed to have the same thing in common, which was that they did not have a stronger reason, a stronger will to have them push past everything it was that they went through. And he goes into great detail in this book with the very traumatic experiences that they went through. The same thing with slavery. The people that you know that experience slavery and segregation and all those things, and there's people that are like 100 years old and they're able to tell the story, they were able to tap into their purpose. They were on a 4D, they were 4D, 5D while living a very, very 3D experience. A very 2D experience, if you're being quite honest. But their surroundings are 3D, but they're 4D, they're 5D. And so your inner dialogue when you're in 4D, you get to the point where you quit your job. You'll quit your career and you'll be like, I can't go back there. I cannot go back to that place ever again. You freeze, like you just, your body freezes when you pull up to work, and like you physically are like, I cannot do this at all. You will start to feel out of place. You'll be at a brunch. It comes in like the most random times. You'll be at a brunch and everyone's drinking, everyone's turning up, everyone's singing music, and you're just like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? Well, what is the point of all this? Things will not make sense to you anymore. And then you also realizing that there's more to life. There's more to life than this. I'm not supposed to just be going to work, clocking in, clocking out, doing all the other things, taking care of the children or going to the gym, taking a shower, and then going to sleep, waking up, doing it all over again. You start to question your in and out through life and how you're going through life and how it just doesn't make sense to you. And how all of this stuff that has been created for us to do, the design is not matching what it is that you should be doing. So some signs that you are in 4D, shadow work, right? Your childhood trauma, your toxic patterns, you having a higher sense of awareness. Another sign is that you start to lose interest in very superficial things, right? You don't really care about what car you're driving. You don't really care about any superficial attachments. You can't stand drama. You can't stand gossip. You start to pull back from people who drain you. You crave depth. You crave truth. You crave solitude. You want to be alone. You want to be isolated. And then also you embracing new spiritual tools. Maybe you want to learn a divinity practice like tarot cards. Maybe you want to get into different herbs. Maybe you want to get into different, you want to go into crystals and things like that. So let me see. Here we go.
We're on the 3D or the 5D timeline. Now, aside from the fact that you're here on my 5D account, which is a good sign, I want to tell you exactly how you can tell without things like this, without technology, but intuitively know where you are. So you want to listen to this video to the end. I'll start by adding some context to this video that you've heard me talk about the 3D timeline and the 5D timeline running in parallel like train tracks, very close to one another at the moment. So you can be on the 5D timeline, but through means like the internet. The internet is like a window into stuff which is going on across in 3D. And if you're in a metropolitan area, you can be on the 5D timeline, but still interacting and coming across people who are in 3D and lower vibrational situations. So how do you know which timeline you're on? I'm going to explain it to you right here, right now, and you're going to be crystal clear by the end of it. So the first way to absolutely know what timeline you're on, if you put down the devices, if you put down the internet and you turn off the television and you turn off all media and you just sit in your own space, tune into the collective energies that are around you in the environment and how does that feel? If it feels super calm, if it feels peaceful and it feels positive, then absolutely you are on the 5D timeline. If, however, when you've put the devices down and you turn the internet off and you're tuned into the collective energies of the environment that you're sitting in or you're exposed to, and it feels tense, it feels anxious, you're worried about the future, you can feel this kind of tension within that environment, chances are that's 3D timeline. So you're able to tell by putting down the technology how you feel. Some of you in my previous videos, you've said that you feel like you're in a bubble. You're not in a bubble at all. You're actually picking up on the energies of the timeline that you're on. So it's just basically when you look through the window of the internet into 3D, you see all this crazy stuff going on, but at the same time you feel insulated from it. It's because you're exposed to the energies of 5D. So do this now. So put the phone down, put the internet down, tune into the energy of the environment. How do you feel? Does it feel positive or do you feel tense? That is how you tell what timeline you're on. If you found it helpful, share it. Share your experiences in the comments.
So the thing about it is that you can, so listen, if you are making money to earn a living and to live in a space, you can have different aspects of dimensions. So like, for instance, of course I'm 3D. This is 3D. What I'm doing is 3D. Me having shelter, me having a car, me creating content. This is all 3D. This is all 3D. So like monks have no technology. They literally go off with all of the same people that have the same thinking as them, and they're just out. So that's how far people will go. There are people, they just hitchhike. Their whole entire life is just revolved around hitchhiking. All they do, they will find a stream and shower in the stream. They will live in the wilderness. They don't need a phone. They don't need anything. Those are the people that they're high. They're like 7. They're high in a dimension. So there are still parts of you. There are multiple parts of you that can be in multiple dimensions at the same time. So when it comes to relationships and love, you might be in 5D. But when it comes to your appearance, you may be in 3D. You see what I'm saying? How you can have both. So you may care a lot about your appearance. You may be very, very vain, and you might be very, very superficial, but you don't care about societal standards. You don't care about having children. You don't care about getting married. You don't care about having a 9 to 5. All of that is like 5D. All of that is just outside of you having to fit into anything that 3D is telling you to fit in. So there are certain aspects of your life that will be in different dimensions.
Who care about ascension and want to ascend into living in this blissful state, which is the 5th dimension, I'm going to show you how to first ascend.
I can't turn it up higher. It's a very, very low video. So sorry, the volume's really low on her speaker, on her mic.
From the 3rd dimension, where most of humanity is, which is the dimension of just being human and contrast and pain and suffering and scarcity and fear and all those fun things, we need to ascend from the 3rd dimension to the 4th dimension in order to ready our system to actually exist and manifest in the 5th dimension. So you're following me here in my closet in the middle of the night? So 3rd dimension, where we all are, scarcity and fear and all that good stuff. The 4th dimension is actually the dimension that Jesus brought to earth. And the core values of the 4th dimension are love, like truly loving yourself and truly loving your neighbor and loving others as you would love yourself, and forgiveness. Love and forgiveness. And those qualities, when you master those qualities in the 4th dimension, you're then going to be able to easily ascend into the 5th dimension, which is all about pure love and bliss and oneness. So in the 4th dimension, there still is some sort of separation, definitely not as much as here. And so you'll know there's a lot of people actually who are currently in the 4th dimension, or they're in between the 3rd and 4th dimensions. You will know if this is you, if you just feel that you are one with everyone. When you see someone, you can really empathize with them. You can actually see that they are a version of you, that they are a version of God consciousness, and you truly feel connected to strangers who you have no contact with, and you can really empathize with their suffering, with the stuff that they're going through without judgment. That is unconditional love.
So she talked about 5D. So she's 100% right. 5D is like unity consciousness, right? So understanding that everything is connected, everyone is connected. We all have some form of a shared experience outside of our separatism. Because the issue is that in 3D, That's the reason why they found all of these ways to separate us. That's done on purpose, because when you don't separate anyone, you start to realize, once you talk to more and more people, you actually have a lot more in common with people outside of anything that is separating you all. So by race or by socioeconomic status, outside of all of these ideas that were created and manufactured, you have a lot in common with a lot of people. But most of us are never going to know that, because we are seeing ourselves separate from other people. So 5D is always going to operate from love, empathy, peace, wisdom, and you are no longer attached to outcomes. It might be a job you've been praying for that job for you don't know how long, and you finally got an interview for it. If you get the job, great. If you don't get the job, great. Your life is not going to end. You are going to be very magnetic. You're going to be very embodied. You're going to be very whole. When you are in 5D, it's just your aura at that point. It's just your presence at that point. It's just you. So your symptoms and your feelings that are associated with 5D, you have a deep inner peace. Even during a time of chaos, even when everyone else is stressed, even when people are trying to project their stress onto you, you're chilling. Another sign, you have a very strong intuition. Like what Billy Carson said, when you are on these higher dimensions, you can see the past, you can see the present, and you can see the future. Because essentially, when you're on a higher dimension, you're able to look down at everything below you. You're able to look down at the dimensions that are underneath you. You don't feel the need to prove yourself. Because by the time you're in 5D, it's like why I did that video yesterday on here, talking about your energy being too heightened, your energy being too big, and it will repel men. It will pretty much reject men and make their life fall apart. When you're in the 5D, you won't care about what other people think about you, because you can't. Your aura, your energy will be so bold, only the people that have ascended up to that level will be able to be in your presence, because your energy is way too big. And the thing about it is that the most important thing is that you know these things. The biggest thing with 5D is knowing that you're clairvoyant, knowing that you don't care about what anyone thinks about you, knowing that you're powerful, knowing that you're calm, and like actually understanding that like that is who you are. No one has to tell you that. You don't have to ask anyone. You know 100% that that is what you are. And so your inner dialogue is pretty much going to be very worry-free. It's going to be very positive. It's going to be very calm. So you will walk away from things quick. You will be very accepting of things not working out in your favor. You will release your attachment to outcomes. You will understand that your energy is sacred. If someone goes to that higher level, could they go back to a lower level if someone low comes around? Yes. Yes. You can easily go between 5D down to 4D down to 3D. You can easily go from 5D straight down to 4D. You can switch in between the dimensions. In 2021, was it 2021 or 2022? In 2022, I would say that there were, when it came to things that were like superficial, I was much more 5D. I was much more 5D. But but then there would be some parts where like my brain and my thinking were still in 3D and then like split between 4D. But yes. Because guess what? The difference between you being at a higher dimension and then having someone come around you that would drop you down into a different dimension, all of that would be predicated from the fact of you not knowing that you're in a higher dimension. That's the only difference. That's why I said the most important thing with 5D is knowing that you're 5D, knowing that you have a very, very strong energy. When you are walking around with that energy and you don't know that you have that energy, you will not know how to protect it. It's like having some rare diamond or a rare crystal or rare stone, and you just think it's a regular stone. You think it's a regular old diamond. You think it's fake. And then you show it to someone and someone's like, "What? This is valuable." And they start giving you the history of it, and then they end up taking it. They end up taking it because you don't know the value of what it is that you have. So it's very, very important for you to know where majority of your energy, what dimension that you are a part of, especially if you are in a higher dimension. Yes, having consciousness and wisdom is mandatory in 5D. Absolutely. You have to have those things. You have to have enough discernment. You have to have enough self-awareness to be in a predicament where no one will be able to come around and get you in a lower dimension. So, some signs, right? You setting boundaries, you being in 5D comes along with boundaries. Like you said, consciousness and wisdom. You setting boundaries so that way no one is going to be able to drop you down into a lower dimension. No one's going to throw you off. You're also very trusting. You're trusting of divine timing. I was supposed to start my job on Monday, this past Monday. I'm strongly intuitive. I already knew I wasn't going to be able to start my job on Monday. So I wasn't freaking out. I was like, that's fine. I can chill. I can keep creating content. I can catch up on a few things. I can build my routine before I head back to work. I can enjoy the sun and outside. I'm not freaking out. Plus, we're in Mercury retrograde. So it's going to be a lot of delays. It's going to be a lot of, you not getting things in a timely manner. It's cool. Not a big deal. Your relationships will be based on resonance. So the frequency that another person is resonating at. If a person cannot meet you at your frequency, you will not let them in your circle. Because when you're really in 5D, you'll be able to pick up someone that is in 3D trying to pull you down there with them. So you're not going to let that happen. You have strong enough boundaries. You're protective enough of your energy. You're wise and conscious and self-aware enough to know, nope. This person's energy does not align. They don't get to have access. My energy is sacred. Also, you being creative, you creating things, and you creating things from a place of joy, you creating from a place of happiness and not creating things out of forcefulness. I don't like to do anything out of force. as hard as it is for me to like rest my mind and not feel obligated to do things, I am not going to create things out of force. I am not going to force relationships. I am not going to force a job to hire me. I'm not going to force someone to like me. It just is what it is.
If you are at the level where you're able to forgive people who have really hurt you in your life, you're able to forgive people who've done horrible things, you're able to forgive these power structures, and you're able to forgive ignorant people or people who just don't know better and maybe they've caused a lot of harm, but they just don't know, then you are in the fourth dimension. So that's awesome. So until you get to that space of love and forgiveness, work on that. Because once you've achieved that, and once you basically don't hold a grudge against humanity, once you're not complaining about how life sucks, and because you just see that there is a greater purpose, that there is a greater interconnectedness. And the fourth dimension is also where all of your lives, your past lives, really parallel lives, are coexisting at the same time. There isn't this same need for time as a construct in the fourth dimension. And then when you're in the fifth dimension, there is no time. There is instant manifestation through thought. There is, because there is no scarcity, there is just pure love and existence. And that is what few people, but growing in numbers, that's what we are grounding into planet Earth right now. And because there are people who are existing in this perspective, in this mindset, in this energetic space, it makes it much more easier for people to also align with these vibrational frequencies. And what you're going to see in the coming years is a huge chasm of people who are just stuck in 3D and they're fine with it. Their lives might feel like chaos and they might feel like they have no control over their inner world. And it's going to be true for them. And then there's going to be people who are in the 4D and the 5D who are just, things are just working out for them. And even if they aren't working out for them, they don't hold a grudge. They're not in a fear-based state. They just know that things are happening because of love. They know things are happening to move them closer to love. They know things are happening because the universe loves them. And when you're in that place, it's the most powerful place you can be because you're not controlled by darker forces. You're not controlled by lower frequencies or lower impulses. And it just allows you to be this ascended version of yourself. It allows you to access some of your higher multidimensional states. So that's it for me. Let me know if you have questions. I'm going to bed.
So, yeah, I mean, that's really the best way to put it. Exactly. Dark energy flees from that. Exactly. This is why I say when you are harnessing your energy and you are allowing that energy to put you in a higher dimension, I feel like naturally you're going to be very protective of it, because the thing about it is that it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to undo your conditioning. It takes a lot to remove the hardware from your programming. It takes a lot of work because you're going to lose friends, you're going to lose a job, pretty much a lot of things. You will be removed from a lot of the things that you are attached to. And the thing about is when you get to the 4D and the 5D, in order to get to 4D and 5D, you have to shed things that have made you feel comfortable, you know? So you may leave a job and go into a job that is not as secure. You know, it might be a sales job. It may be something where you don't know when your next paycheck is going to come or how big it's going to be. You know, you may decide that you need to change your location. So you're going to a place you don't know anybody. You know, and you've lived in your hometown your whole entire life. Now you've moved across the country. You don't know anybody. So in order for you to go to higher dimensions, you have to be willing to release the things that are keeping you comfortable in 3D. Most people do not want to do that. Most people are okay living in chaos because you've been conditioned to embrace chaos. You've been conditioned to embrace attachment to things and to outcomes and to people. All of the things in the 3D was just taught to you. So you have to be willing to undergo the work to undo your programming. So that is all I have for you all today. I hope that you all enjoyed this live stream. I know I did. I love talking about these things. It really does heal me because I feel like these are things that a lot of people need to know. So yeah, going ahead, if you didn't like the live stream, I don't know how many likes it's at, but yeah, if you didn't like on your way out, and I would love your input on this live stream and your thoughts in the comments. And also let me know in the comments what you plan to do or what you are currently doing in order to get into, oh, nice, 35 likes. That's good. In order to get into the 4D or 5D dimension. And, you know, also maybe what signs are you having that is letting you know that you are in the higher dimension. So my lovely sovereign sisters, I will talk to you all next time. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.